Four mages set off to save their beloved princess from the demon fortress, and like all mages, they travel in glowy balls. I mean, why wouldn't you? If you're a mage, you gotta get somewhere. It's like either that or you have to ride the king of horses. This is Micromages. Copyright 2019 morphcat games. Recently on this channel, we played a couple of games by Locomalito, who does retro games in the style of old, obsolete hardware. Morphcat was like, hey man, hold my beer. We're gonna make the game for the actual obsolete hardware. This game is not only done in the style of an NES game, this is an actual NES game that somebody made in 2019. It has one rule. The rule is blow up all the checkpoints. We don't need them. We do not need the checkpoints. They're worth 500 points. I'm going to blow them all up. So this is not only an NES game developed in actual 2019. First of all, you can buy this game right now. You can go on Steam. There is a Steam version. You can play it on Steam if that's your... if you live a dirty life. But part of what you get when you purchase this game on Steam is you get a ROM to play on an NES emulator, which is how I'm doing it here. And if you have just way too much money, you can go ahead and just purchase a physical cartridge of Micromages, which will run on your actual NES machine, which I'm sure you have, because who wouldn't? I would love to own one. So far, I have not been able to justify the splurge, but I did go ahead and purchase this on Steam, and this might be one of my favorite games in 2019. But not only, and this is the really impressive part, after you're done watching my Let's Play of this game, and maybe after you're done playing the game for yourself, because hopefully I will inspire some people to go ahead and try it out, you really want to look up on YouTube. They did some making of videos of this game. We want to make sure we don't accidentally collect the... Oh, we collected the checkpoint! I broke the rules. I broke the rules and everybody's going to unsubscribe. But I did get my duck, so the duck is good. Duck is go. This is not just an NES game, because there are some really impressive NES games out there. When you get pretty late into the NES life, you get to stuff like Kirby's Adventure, Super Mario Bros. 3. I get some of these late NES games. You start getting into some really impressive stuff. Crystallis, which I recently played on the channel. I almost got that checkpoint, but I didn't. Guys, I'm keeping the rule alive in spirit. But this is not... Like, they're not using the full brunt of the NES hardware. I'm pretty sure the limitation they did for themselves for this game was 40 kilobytes. I think I have that right. They went for, like, can we make a first generation, like, launch title NES game? And can we put secret passages in the walls where people can pick up an elephant? And they did it. This whole game fits into 40 kilobytes, and there's an excellent YouTube video on some of the graphical tricks that went into it. For those of you who don't understand what a kilobyte is, you know how when you download a game on Steam, you're like, oh, this game is 500 megabytes. Go ahead and put it on your hard drive. Like, not 500 megabytes. Well, I guess some of them could be, because 500... Maybe a very small game on Steam is 500 megabytes. But typically games are measured in gigabytes nowadays. In fact, games are so huge that I can't even keep... I have a 2 terabyte hard drive. Oh, I don't want to kill him! I don't want to kill him! Oh, he's gonna explode in the bones. I almost got bonerschnitzel'd there, but I'm fine. I have a 2 terabyte hard drive in my gaming computer. And I can't even keep all of my Steam games loaded on it. 2 terabytes, if you would have told me when I was in high school that, hey man, someday you're gonna have a 2 terabyte hard drive, I would have been like, that's not even a real word, you dingus. It's called a gigawatt. Haven't you seen Back to the Future? But 40 kilobytes, it's like, I've got text files. Like, the text file that I use to keep track of my itinerary for this game, because I do a little bit of planning for each of my Let's Play series, like what I want to show off, what I want to talk about. The text file that I have is probably more than 40 kilobytes, if I've looked at it. 40 kilobytes, you're not just talking about the late, great NES games. You're talking about literally the restrictions that games like Super Mario Bros. or under. First-gen NES games. And I love that there are developers out there, both like Locomolito, who are keeping the old retro style alive. I mean, even developers like Inti Creates, who just do kind of a retro aesthetic. But then Locomolito, who takes it like a step further and tries to emulate a very particular console, a very particular moment in gaming history. And then you got people like morphcat, who take it even a step further and be like, you know what, let's go for the actual hardware. We live in a world where an NES game came out in 2019. This is a console that has not been officially supported since, I want to say, like 1994? What's the like newest NES game that I can think of? I own a bunch of them. I have a big NES collection. I'm trying to think, what is like the newest one? It would have to be something, not Kirby's Adventure. That's pretty late, but I think there's ones that are even later than that. You know, I'm gonna say Mega Man 6 might be the absolute newest one that I own. I feel like I remember that game coming out after Mega Man X. Is that correct? Does Mega Man X predate 6? Because 6 is so late in the Mega Man universe that Capcom didn't even publish it. I think Nintendo published Mega Man 6. In fact, if you look at the cartridges for the Mega Man games, and yeah, I know I should be talking about micromages, not Mega Man, but I am Brickroad, so it's gonna happen. Like, Mega Man talk is gonna happen. This game is very similar to Mega Man in some ways, but yeah, if you look at the Mega Man cartridges, Mega Man 1 through 5 have the like typical NES Capcom style cartridge, and then Mega Man 6 has a very different looking situation going on. So not only did they go with can I sneak in there, please? There we go. Not only did they make an NES game, they made a very early NES game. Like, this game could have launched on the console, and to me that's just incredibly impressive. And even within those restrictions, they managed to make an incredibly compelling game. I think this game is $10 on Steam. Like, I would buy a game like this on Steam for $10. No problem. Even if it didn't have like the extra history of being, it's an actual NES title, even if I didn't have a whole bunch of nostalgia for the NES in particular, but I mean, it helps that it is a game for my favorite console of all time, and that it's like a style of game that I am most adept at and comfortable with, but the game plays wonderfully. It's got great controls, it's got just the right level of difficulty. You got wall jumps, you can do this cool thing with your charge shot where you shoot it downwards and you get like an extra jump. So there's lots of depth to just moving around this tower. It's not a very long game, but that doesn't have to be. Not every game needs to be 30 hours long. In fact, I don't think this will quite be a one-shot, but it's going to be a very short series in any respect. But that they were, like a lot of these old NES games, Super Mario Brothers, for just as an example. Yeah, I like Super Mario Brothers a lot. Played it quite a bit. Ooh, I need to go up here and get all these boxes, because I need to see if I can get my duck back. I took a hit and lost my duck. You can play Super Mario Brothers, you can enjoy Super Mario Brothers. In fact, I suggest you do if you haven't. But I suspect that everybody who plays Super Mario Brothers for the first time in 2019 is going to play it in like, oh, this is quaint. Like, this is what video games used to be like. Micromages is what video games used to look like, but it feels very modern. It feels like a game that was made in 2019. I suspect that a lot of the graphical tricks that are used to keep the game file within the allotted size, probably a lot of developers didn't have access to those tricks. I mean, we're talking about 30 years of people perfecting using the hardware at this point. Like, not every developer in the world had access to that encyclopedia of knowledge that people have now about the NES hardware, what it's capable of. I don't want to die! I don't want to die! Okay, I died. That wasn't actually a death, because I had 1 hit point left. There's 2 ways you can get extra hit points. You can either get a fairy, or you can get a duck. And if you're very good, you can get both. And I have neither right now, so I have to treat these bubble goats with very, very, very much respect. There's my fairy. Okay, now I can be reckless and stupid again. So I'm going to talk about game design philosophy for a little bit. This is something that I absolutely believe to be true. I think everybody who is curious at all about game development, anybody who's thinking about, like, wanting to do it as a hobby or as a career, this is true. This is just an objective fact of game design. When you have restrictions on what you're allowed to do, what you're able to do, for example, I've got to make this game and fit it inside of 40 kilobytes. When you have those restrictions, the games are just better. Games where you have no restrictions, that's why they come out and they're 500 gigabytes and they're full of bugs and you clip through the geometry and you need all these patches. Listen. This is an NES game, so these can't be the Beer Bros. I'm assuming they're throwing kegs of Coca-Cola. That's what I'm going to assume. And now I just go through the pipe, and there is my... Well, like I said, it can't be beer because it's an NES game. It must be a mug of frosty Coca-Cola, right? Oh, here comes my other one-up heart floating up from the bottom of the screen. This is just a truism that I just hold this to be true. Games, and really any form of art, really, is when you have restrictions, when you know what your limitations are, you have to work within them. The thing you make is going to be more polished. This game, Micromages, I can't think of any bugs that I found in this game. The controls are super tight. It looks excellent. It plays excellent. Even compared to stuff like Shovel Knight, the Shantae games that have a retro aesthetic but are modern, can still feel unpolished in places. If you're making a game and you're on, you have hardware limitations, which is not a thing that game designers really have to worry about anymore. In an absolute sense, I'm gonna go right over your head, thank you, because you blow up into bones. You have to make those limitations part of your game. And I'm gonna give an example of a series that I love, that near and dear to my heart, but this is a series that has not had to deal with any sort of limitations for years and years and years, and it shows. Maybe my favorite video game series ever is Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy games are excellent, and I love most of them. And I've Let's Played several of them, even though I have, for a long time, maintained a pretty strict no RPGs rule on my own channel. The modern Final Fantasy games, especially 12 and 15, I love very dearly. But Final Fantasy 15, you look at that game, that's a bloated game. That's a game where 150 people had different ideas, and all 150 people got to put their ideas in the game. And it feels bloated, and there are game systems. Everybody I know that's played Final Fantasy 15 extensively, most of them don't understand the game systems and how they work. Myself included. I played all the way to the end of that game. I'm talking all the side quests and everything. I'm talking a good 60, 70 hours before I realized that you could put an item in your Elemancy. Like, I knew you could build spells with Elemancy, and I did it for the whole game, but I didn't realize until 70 hours in the game that, oh, you could put an item in there to, like, juice up your spells, make them more powerful. You just never need that game system. It doesn't matter. And it's because the game is so bloated. Like, I understood how the equipment worked, I understood how, like, warp striking worked, and just having an entire game system that I didn't understand how it worked, and didn't have to care about, that is a indication of just bloated design. And as much as I love that game, I prefer the Final Fantasy games that don't have that issue when I go back to replay games. 4, 5, and 6 on the SNES, obviously they're all favorites of mine, and they don't have this problem, because when you're developing for a 16-bit console back in the early 90s, you didn't have the luxury of saying, oh yeah, we just have infinite space, and we can just patch out anything that doesn't work. I didn't want to blow him up. Oh, this bone's gonna come all the way up here and get me. No, it didn't, surprisingly. Am I safe here? I'm safe here, and I'm safe here, yes. I gotta make sure that these demons... They're mad at me because I just killed Satan in L'Abbé des Morts. And I have been told, when I previewed that game on YouTube, that it is pronounced Moor and not Mort. I'm sorry, I'm bad at French. I'm good at 8-bit platformers, I'm bad at French. I don't know what to tell you. But, yeah, I killed Satan, and then all the demons in this game would be mad at me. Shoutouts to Umbaglow for sponsoring this video. If you liked the video and you want to see more, please tickle my thumb, leave a friendly comment, and ring my little bell.